this year, everybody lost their minds about Top Gun Maverick because it was not only a really good movie, but it was like how Hollywood used to make them. And that was deserved. I love Top Gun Maverick, but I gotta say, The Woman King is also how Hollywood used to make them. It's rare to see a movie this good that doesn't have elements that, it's like it's good. You know the feeling. You're like, this is a pretty good movie, but it could definitely be better. This is just, I would definitely call The Woman King, just as I would call Top Gun Maverick, a perfect movie. So good. Now, I've been seeing I'm very upset about some of the things I tweeted about how much I loved this movie online last night after seeing it, and I was a little miffed about some of the accusations against the film, which I think are totally unfair, and I'll address some of them here. But don't listen to that toxicity. Go see this movie. It is incredible. All right, so I've been seeing positive comparisons to Gladiator and Braveheart, which is totally warranted, definitely cut from the same cloth as those films, although it's very cool to see that kind of story with female characters, because you know what the female roles were like in those other two movies. But this is not a movie just for women. It's got awesome action sequences, and it's no more a movie just for women as Wonder Woman was. It's got great action sequences. It's got historical context. It's just a great movie. Now, I've also seen some people say it's like Black Panther. I think some people have said it's like ripping off Black Panther, but this is based on this is an actual group of women warriors that actually existed. So I think Black Panther's Dora Milaje were based on this. So, I do say that whoever gets to the general public first is the most well-known, but I think people should have an interest and be respectful of the real-life women who inspired some fictional characters that everybody loves. All right, also I would add The Lion King, because this movie feels very Disney. Very vibrant, colorful film. It has an idealization about it because it's just the way it depicts Africa. So beautiful, just the majesty of Africa and its culture. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the review, but that's why I put the Disney element in there. And it also reminds me a little bit of 1998's Mulan, not just because of the training stuff with being a warrior and everything like that, women warriors, but also the small village, or in this case, a kingdom, but that community and how it works and the gender roles. It's great. It's so good. And also Thuso Mbedu, I think, gives strong Disney princess vibes. She's fantastic. She's one of the stars of the film. And it also reminded me a little bit of A League of Their Own, because in the middle of the movie, it kind of becomes like a sports training film, which was a great idea. It was a very well-constructed film. Now, all these movies are fantastic. They're great. And The Woman King not only deserves to be in the same group and stand beside these movies, but it's still also its own thing. I get very annoyed when people are like, oh, this is a ripoff, because, I'll tell you, Braveheart and Spartacus are basically the same movie. Mel Gibson, because Spartacus was a very successful and celebrated film, and so Mel Gibson watched it and made Braveheart almost a beat-for-beat, story beat remake of that film for a different historical character. And nobody ever says anything about that, so I don't want to hear it. This is a great movie, and it's very, very, very unique. It's more unique than Braveheart to Spartacus. Now, this is also a complex film. Now, I've seen some people saying that it's not honest about the slave trade, but it is. They're just not putting that in the ad campaign. But when you go and see the movie, you will see that is very much, it's one of the main elements of the film. Because slavery has been an evil on earth for centuries among many civilizations. The Romans, depicted in Gladiator, Vikings, depicted in The Northman. But tragically, the raping of Africa, and I use that term for a reason, which I'll talk about in a moment when it comes to the script. But that Africa was the gold rush of slavery. And this is the first mainstream film that I've seen that addresses that it was African kingdoms themselves who rounded up slaves for the European traders who basically just picked them up in port with the African, and the African kingdoms not only sold their prisoners of war from other African kingdoms, but they even sold their own people in some cases. And this movie discusses that. And it also points out that the human product was worth just so much money, the temptation to many African kings was just too great. But they also point out that it was a very short-sighted situation. Slavery, there's still, of course, human trafficking and slavery, but not to the degree that there once was. But I think to some degree, the way that they've just completely gotten rid of the middle class by allowing upper management to take way too much money and and treat their workers very horrifically. And also, to some degree, also globalization and some countries treating their workers even worse. But because it's a lower, we're getting a little off track here. But basically, that's another very short-sighted thing. So I think that this movie, yes, it kind of injects some modern commentary in it. I don't think the characters at that time were like, I think this plan's going to backfire on us. The reason it's put into the movie, is so that it can make the point to modern audiences. And I think it makes it extremely effectively. This is the most compelling case that I've seen in mainstream media about the horrible long-term consequences in Africa because of the slave trade that was perpetrated not only by the rest of the world, but by Africa itself. And it was a short-term strategy for a quick gain by only, of course, a very select few, the kings and tribal leaders of Africa at the time. And I think that's really sophisticated and interesting. But, I think it's an important step in this conversation and in the healing of what happened. Now, I use the term rape because the film, again, very well written, has this also a part of the story, not just as a metaphor for what happened to Africa. So smart. Like the movie, it flows so beautifully. You think it's simplistic, but when you think back, you're like, I can't believe that callback. That was so smart. It's just really well written. But also it shows the struggles of women who do not want to be property in a different yet similar way to the slave trade. Of course, I'm talking about wives, particularly in that time, all over the world, but also on that continent, in that culture. Now, it's also sad to see so many of the problems and struggles that the women are facing in this movie, both external and internal, even to a degree variations on the career versus motherhood struggle, career versus romance. And that's, of course, something that women are still grappling with today. And so I think that I think almost all women will be able to relate and sympathize with this film. And it was also very interesting to see those discussions in this context. But as I said, it's not just a movie for women. Again, as it offers strong commentary on Africa with some other very interesting nuances to that conversation that I don't want to spoil. The movie has a lot of twists and turns that all surprised me, and I hope they aren't ruined for you. That would be really unfortunate because the movie is just so well crafted. Also, as I said, lots of great action, thanks to the script by Dana Stevens and the directing from Gina Prince Bythewood, who I think they're both strong contenders for Oscars. But the movie knows to open with an action sequence, which was so great, and then it turns into kind of a sports training movie with some political aspects and political and historical commentary, before a third act that's full of action and suspense. Oh, what a great third act. Oh, the whole movie's just so good. The fights here also are excellent, from the choreography to the camera work. Not a lot of jump cuts and close-ups here. These ladies are doing the fighting. And the stunt doubles, all very impressive. And their strength is amazing. They're so strong. Like, you see these women coming and you're like, you better get out of the way. You're going to get a beat down. It's incredible. And you don't have any supermodels here relying on super strength. Not to knock Wonder Woman, there's a place for that as well, but it was really rewarding to see believable female action heroes. And they're not Mary Sue's. They take hits. Some of them die. No spoilers. And they are, and don't say, oh, that's a spoiler. You don't know who it's going to be, but I just want to tell you that the movie has consequences. And they're very clever fighters who work the angles. They know they're not as strong as their male counterparts, so they think ahead and come up with clever tricks and moves. A lot of Black Widow type fighting. I was like, oh, I remember that move. I've seen that in Black Widow. But it was really cool to see it in a real world historical context, which made it seem all the more real and possible. So I thought it was excellent. They really worked hard to figure out, and I don't want to give away some of their tricks because they were excellent. They really work hard to show how women warriors, in addition to becoming very strong and skilled fighters, would figure out other ways to even the playing field against male opponents, because they're fighting some really big guys. I've seen people coming after this movie online, and again, as I said, that's really unfortunate, and almost everything that's been said that I saw last night was either incorrect or unfair, because Braveheart, I looked it up to make sure, Braveheart is just full of historical inaccuracies, and nobody had a problem with that. This movie is far more historically accurate than Braveheart. And again, you have to realize that it is a film made today, and so it has the benefit of hindsight, and they're creating a script to have that commentary and start those conversations, as a good movie should. All right, as I said, the movie, while the movie has great historical action and drama, it also has lighter moments and is full of color, which gives it that kind of Disney quality a little bit. And it really displays the majesty of Africa and the culture of its people. There are just some stunning shots in this film. I thought it was really great. You know, you worry a smaller budget film like this might not be able to get these kind of qualities across, but this movie definitely does. A lot of movies these days are stripped of their vibrant colors, even Disney live action remakes, which I think is to save on the VFX because you can't see the VFX as well. But this movie shows you that you can have vibrant colors and still be a very serious film with a strong commentary. I also love the use of music in the movie. You should definitely try to see this on a premium screen. I saw it on a regular screen. I'm surprised that's where the screening was. I saw it on a regular screen, and I still had a great time. But I have tickets to see it again this weekend. All right, finally, of course, the acting. Stellar across the board. And I would imagine that Viola Davis and Lashana Lynch are strong contenders for award nominations, along with the film itself, and as I said, directing, writing, and probably some craft categories as well. Viola Davis is so badass and totally believable as a female general who leads her own troops. She's right in the front. She has fight scenes. Viola Davis fighting is amazing. It was awesome to watch. She's also given a lot of really great dramatic scenes as well. I mean, woman king indeed. She already has an Oscar, but I think she might have just earned herself another one. I can't imagine anybody topping this performance. It just has so many different levels and aspects to it. I've been a fan of Lashana Lynch for a while now, and I thought she was great in the last James Bond movie. But now I wish she had more action sequences because this is the best thing I've ever seen her done. She also was extremely funny, and she also was very emotional. I loved her character, and I hope she gets something even more incredible off of this where she gets to be front and center. I'm tired of her having to be backup in Captain Marvel. Even in Multiverse of Madness, she hardly had any screen time. And in Bond, I mean, she's an action star. She is a true action star. And as I said, Thuso Mbedu holds it all together as our Disney warrior princess. Watch her. She is a star on the rise for sure. I was like, what could she get? Somebody's going to snap her up for sure. And Viola Davis does a wonderful job portraying Davis's best friend and confidant. And John Boyega, wow, this is also the best thing I've ever seen him do since Attack the Block, his debut role. No wonder he's so upset about Star Wars. He's really talented. He's incredibly talented. And he's very commanding as the young king here. I thought he was fantastic. He often has to hold his own against all these women warriors, and he certainly does. He actually had some funny moments too. He was great. And there are other strong cast members, but I don't want to give their characters away. So as I said, this is a perfect movie. This is one of those timeless films that you will be able to watch forever. You know it when you see it. When you see those movies and you're like, that one's eternal. This is one of those. I had a wonderful time seeing it in theaters. It's great to be able to, as we gravitate more towards streaming, it's so wonderful to still be able to have an experience like this. I was clapping during the movie and applauding. I did that during Top Gun Maverick 2, by the way. I was like, yay! And my audience did as well. It was just so great. Someone's phone even went off multiple times during the screening, and I was like, it's okay. This movie's so great, I don't care. So I thought it was just fantastic. And if you enjoyed any of these other movies I referenced, you should definitely see this one. Definitely. So that's my review of The Woman King, hitting theaters this Friday. Showtime start Thursday night. And I got my tickets to go again. I can't wait. So share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.